Hello and welcome. This is the Goal is AFL podcast with myself, with Caleb up here. We have been recapping every single round of the AFL season so far. This is the round 22 recap, and we'll look ahead kind of to round 23 as we get towards the pointy end of the season, the very, very sharp end. We've got 2 more games to go, 2 more rounds. And, well, you know, Gold Coast have 3 games to go, but hey, where most other teams have 2 games to go. But we will recap some of the games. And Caleb, did you watch much football this weekend? Did you have much time? And what was your experience watching it?
Yeah, got to consume a decent amount of footy this weekend. Was obviously at the Brisbane Lions game, which was a disappointing affair. Another big shake-up in terms of Collingwood not being able to bounce back in terms of form. The Bulldogs were able to make the great escape and get a massive win for their finals campaign. Fremantle somehow able to get the job done. And then the big headline that we all thought we were going to have coming into it was West Coast, bottom of the table, beating Adelaide, top of the table. Unfortunately, not to be.
No. And you talked about the Collingwood Magpies. They got trounced on Thursday night by the Hawthorn Hawks, 110-46. And, man, this was a game where Collingwood looked old. They looked slow. They looked boring. They obviously had an injury to Jeremy Howe at the start of the game. But they never really looked like they were in the game at all. They basically, you know, they were down by 40 plus, nearly 40 points at halftime, and then it just never recovered. So, man, it was kind of... the rest of Australia was very happy about all of this happening. Although I kind of wish it wasn't someone like the Hawks. Kind of wish it was, you know, someone that most other people liked, like maybe St Kilda or something. But yeah. Hawks looking like they're, you know, hitting their stride at the right time, which is good for them. But yeah, Collingwood definitely on a slide at the wrong time.
That's a very accurate assessment. I think, you know, having Jeremy Howe go out in the early phases, just from a psychological perspective, definitely does affect the team. And him being out for the last couple of weeks, he's been someone that a lot of people have turned to be like, he being out of the team has a big impact on how their defensive setup is. So the fact that he comes back into the team, then gets taken straight back out, I think put a lot of pressure on the coaching staff in order to rejiggle those, you know, magnets and get themselves psychologically ready to go again with a new tactical setup. And they just physically weren't up to the battle, like you said. And the Hawks, who are a young outfit, you know, hungry for finals footy, they got the job done in a very convincing manner, and got to respect it.
Yep. They definitely had like the juice, so to speak, that they had last year, the bit of a hawk ball type of, you know, mentality. That, you know, that run, gun, go kind of push. And, you know, a big crowd at the MCG. And, yeah, they definitely showed that they have some finals potential. So we'll see kind of Collingwood have the biggest game of the year coming up next week against Adelaide. And the Hawks have still, I don't know who they have next week, but the week after they've got the Lions in the last game of the Sunday night. So still all to play for them. And man, that was a great game to kick off on Thursday night. We'll skip ahead, kind of go in order of importance, because we are going to talk about the Saturday night game, which was the Lions versus Sydney. Unfortunately, we were both at this game, and yeah, we can chat about it a little bit because I don't know what to really say. It felt like it was one of those almost games. It was one of those games where they almost made the tackle. They almost kicked it straight. They almost chained the handball together. Some players had outstanding games for the Lions, but there were so many players who just had duds. And when you have players like Charlie Cameron not pulling their weight, you have a debutant in Tom Doedee playing his first game, replacing Ryan Lester. You have, you know, a really good ruckman, you know, Brodie Grundy beating up on a kind of second level ruckman and Darcy Fort, and you have our forwards like Logan Morris not kicking straight, Zach Bailey making bad decisions. It's really, you're not really going to win many games when all of those things combine. So how did you see it?
Well, I was going to say, I was coming into the game with the opinion that Brisbane are going to be pushing for a top 2 spot. Sydney have nothing to play for, so this is an easy percentage booster.
Nope.
However, one of the guys I was with that afternoon put it in a different frame, and he said that if you were Dean Cox and you were Sydney and you have nothing to play for in terms of finals, this is a great opportunity to really give it up yours to the team that smashed you in the grand
Yep.
final and really derail their finals
Mm,
campaign going into September.
mm,
And that, from a mood perspective, really would have put them up for the challenge. And they very much
mm,
so were. And they just played really direct, fast paced footy. They were
mm.
pretty clean with the football. And Brisbane, just as they always do, they have this, you know, routine now of just allowing the other team to just play their
Yeah.
style of football and just making it hard for
Mm.
themselves. And Brisbane lost this game by 2 points. It should have been more,
Should have been 30
and
plus, yeah,
it
for
was
sure.
embarrassing.
There was, I think, if you take out the grand final, the average margin between these two teams has been like 7 points. Like earlier in the year, we won by like under 10 points, and last year before the grand final, we won, I think, by even less. And man, so that they do play tight, except for obviously the grand final. But I think, yeah, it's one of those games that I feel like if we played this again, 5 times out of 10, like 4.9 times out of 10, we'd win. Like I think that there's so many little things. Like, for example, I'm trying to think of out of half time, Cam Rayner has a shot for goal to try and put us back. We're down by 20 points. Would have kicked us back between like 3 goals. And man, he fluffs it. Zach Bailey didn't centre the ball. He kicked for goal when he should have centred it. He hit the post out on the full. Like just these little things that could have gone our way, just didn't. And I think that I don't think it's like panic stations yet. I think we'll still finish in the top 4, but yeah, I think top 2 might be a little bit out of the question now. So it's unfortunate.
It is very.
And there was what was the other one? Obviously, Tom Duday made his debut. He's the guy who came from Adelaide, had 2 seasons of knee injuries, so that was a kind of good moment, I suppose, having some defensive stocks. But yeah, we've got no Ryan Lester, obviously. Jack Payne's out for the season. Noah Answorth out for the season. Gideon Coleman's out for the season. Well, he's not out for the season, but he's not going to come back. He's
Basically.
not really full strength. So you're relying a lot on like Jasper Fletcher, Dane Zorko, Harris Andrews, those kind of guys, and obviously now Duday. So it's kind of tough. Obviously, if you're playing up against a team like, say, for example, in Adelaide, who has a really big, tall forward line, we're going to be in trouble if we play them. And if our forwards can't kick straight, then what are we going to do? Because our midfield played really well, I thought, especially without Lockie Neal.
Yeah,
Like Will Ashcroft could have been the best on ground, but except
I'd
for
agree
like
with that.
it could was best on ground for the Lions. He was amazing, and like Levi Ashcroft had a great game, but yeah, it was just a very frustrating night. Actually, best on ground is probably Darcy Wilmot. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Darcy. I
Yeah,
think he provides so much energy off that half-back flank. And whenever he makes that darting forward run and is able to contribute on the scoreboard, he's got an awesome song that I love listening to at the Gabba. So
yeah,
he's definitely a likable player. I'm a
yeah.
big fan. But I just feel the biggest frustration with being a Brisbane fan at the moment is that, yes, we have quite a few injuries and star players out at the moment. But like the team that we have been fielding is still far better than the quality of football that we've been playing. And it just being so bipolar week to week in the sense that we can get smashed by Gold Coast, where we just don't play our football at all. And then the very next week, we play our best football against Collingwood and get a big result. And then we come back to the Gabba, and again, it's just not our best football. We're off the pace, and we allow the opposition in Sydney to just get the job done over us. So it's just frustrating because it's like, well, we clearly can play good football. We are capable of it, and yet we just don't do it week to week. And it's just, I don't even know what to say anything more than that. It's just frustrating.
Yeah. And the thing is, we'll probably beat Freo next week over in the West. So
Yeah,
it's
the
one of
next
those
2 games are must win. We
absolute
have to win.
must win. It definitely will put a fire under them because this was the game that you could possibly afford to drop. But yeah, no more. So that was the Lions game on the Saturday night. There were some other games that happened around Saturday, which was it was Saturday afternoon. So these were the Saturday night games, the Carlton versus Gold Coast game. Gold Coast winning. Carlton's season is pretty much done. Michael Voss getting the support of the, front office, so to speak. But I don't think that this game is a barometer of like, all right, they've kind of turned the ship around because they still lost. And it's not like they really played that much better than kind of what their previous games had been. So, what do you think about the kind of reinvigoration of Michael Voss, as in like he's going to be the coach for the next couple of years?
I think it was super important that that decision was made now because coming into the last couple of games of the season, you just don't want uncertainty both within the playing and the coaching staff.
Hmm.
And I think from the fans' perspective, everyone seems to be on the side of Michael Voss. I think it's become quite clear, at least to my eyes, that there's been many games this year
Mm.
where the players themselves haven't stepped up to the
Yeah.
level that is required of a professional AFL player.
Mm.
And yes, you can talk about tactics and is Michael Voss a dinosaur and is he still up to the level of the modern game? All those conversations are valid and worth having, but like the players haven't even implemented his style of football at
Mm.
all. So it's hard to be like, well, he's the problem, get him out of here. And yes, I understand it's easy to get rid of a coach because it's one person,
Hmm.
far easier than getting rid of an entire playing group.
Yeah.
But I think Michael Voss has demonstrated through his time at Carlton that he is capable of getting enough out of the players to, play some pretty exciting footy.
Mm.
And this season should have been that next step for them. It's been a massive 2 steps back for them.
Hmm.
But I think it's a good opportunity for next season to sort of turn the ship around and get Carlton moving in the direction that they want. And if he can, he certainly will be the man for the job moving forward. But if they get off to a rocky start next season, then it's curtains 100%.
Yeah.
But from a Gold Coast perspective, Damien Hardwick, he's come in, he's done his job, he's
Hmm.
got them playing a good brand of football, and they will play finals football this season. And I think that is a massive success for that football club, considering
Yeah.
where they've been.
They've got a game in hand, and yeah, they're sitting in sixth spot right now. So, man, you could see what we could see is like a Q clash in the finals. That would be kind of wild, depending on
That actually
where we
would be.
play it.
Yeah.
Gold Coast, or it'd be like perhaps an elimination game, Gold Coast or Brisbane. So that'd be fun.
Mm.
Imagine playing on the Gold Coast. You'd have so many quick, like the tickets would sell out almost instantly.
I would not mind an elimination final where Brisbane knocked Gold Coast out.
That'd be great. So that was the that was the game on Saturday night. So we did have one other game, which was Saturday during the day, which Richmond did lead for a fair while here, and St Kilda kind of had a slow start, but yeah, kind of regained and just kind of pushed themselves over the edge, kind of showing they have a little bit of that kind of steel, that mentality, and that Richmond don't have. But I think if you're a Richmond fan, you're probably pretty happy with this. Not happy with losing, but showing some fight, and they've doubled their win total of what they thought they were going to win from the bookies, and I think they're 2 games up from what they won last year. So, improvement on that front, still with a very very young list. So, any thoughts on this one? I know you didn't get to watch any of this, but from the St Kilda side or Richmond side,
I feel like Richmond, as one of the teams that are bottom of the barrel, is in a better position than Alistair Clarkson and North Melbourne are. And I think that is very, very interesting considering what the narrative was around the Tigers coming into the season. So, look, I don't have much to say about this game. Both these teams are very uninteresting to watch. And
at
I
the
can't
moment,
wait
yeah.
to not see any more of them play the rest of this season when we
Yeah.
get to September.
There are a few games like this where you're just like, oh, come on, can we just get this one out of the way? Like, there's a little bit of like fatigue at this time of year.
Geelong Essendon was very much so that for me.
Yeah, I don't think I
was
even
like,
put that one
This is a
in.
formality. Let's get it over and done with.
The other game, which we thought was kind of a formality, but actually turned out to be a pretty good game at Adelaide Oval, was Port versus the Dockers. Dockers now jumped into the top 4 with this win. And obviously their pressure and their scoring chances, they had a lot of scoring chances. And right at the end, old mate Alex Pearce, I've forgotten the captain's name, that's really embarrassing. I think it's Alex Pearce, who kicked the final goal when he's a defender and he jumped into the forward line, trailing the attacking guy who dropped into the back. So he kind of got pulled along with him and kicked a goal when the scores were tied. So and that put Freo up, and that was the margin at the end. So this is a pretty exciting game. Obviously Port, Ken Hinkley doesn't have much to play for, but Freo all to play for, and they showed that they kind of had the mentality, and they got Brisbane next week, so they had to get this win.
Yeah, and this is the first time Fremantle have ever beaten Port Adelaide in Adelaide.
Wow.
So that's a massive result for them. And I think it's without a doubt that they've had the toughest run into September out of all the teams in the competition. And they are stepping up and getting the job done at every hurdle. So, look, Fremantle, I thought would have been one of those teams that could have slipped out, but they are certainly here to play, and I think will be worthwhile contenders in September. I don't think they'll win the flag, but they will belong in the top 8 of the AFL. And getting the job done in this fashion is certainly dramatic, but honestly, very, very commendable, especially because of how difficult their run-in has been.
Yep, yep. And I think if a team this year with how tight it is at the top, if a team makes it to the top 4, they really deserve to. There's no like falling into the top 4. I think it's going to be a fun run to the end. And speaking of trying to run to the end and get into the 8, Giants almost solidified a position in the top 8. I think it's pretty much locked in now, especially if they win next week. But they beat North, who again had another disappointing kind of game. This was in Canberra. And this game was like, I don't know. I didn't watch a second of this game. I haven't even seen any highlights of it. So if you saw anything of this one today, I think we'll just skip right along with this one because it's kind of a formality. The next one was a game which I did see some of, which was the Bulldogs versus Melbourne. Melbourne were actually up pretty late in the game, as you can kind of see by the worm here. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Doggies had to win this, and wow, what a way to do it.
Yeah. No, they definitely... They definitely had some mojo going into the last quarter. But yeah, the young sort of, how do I describe it? Like the young demons were out to play and the Dogs had to find a way to win to solidify their chances of getting into the top 8 because they currently are sitting in 9th. So the Doggies now have to obviously just keep winning and hope that, Hawks lose or GWS lose, like those sort of teams that are above them lose. And it's just basically you just got to keep winning. So I think that's obviously a great result for the Bulldogs. But yeah, Melbourne, from their perspective, losing their coach midweek, good sort of bounce back. But I don't feel, like they would have learned anything extra. They're like, oh, we made the right choice here. I don't know. I think that they're still in a bit of chaos in this season,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'll just quickly say from a Bulldogs perspective, I think it would be a great shame if they do miss out. I still am a firm believer in the quality of football that they've played so far this season.
Yeah.
And it will be unfortunate if they don't quite make it. But at the end of the day, the points don't lie. And you've got to get enough to make it into the 8. And if they don't, it'll be because they've lost too many of those close ones throughout the season. But in terms of Melbourne, Simon Goodwin getting the sack, we talked about it at the beginning of the season. This was one of my predictions that I was pretty firm on. I was pretty confident that he was going to be the first coach to get the sack this season. I didn't anticipate it being this late into the season. The Demons, to their credit, did manage to get some wins on the board during the middle part of the sandwich, if that makes sense. And unfortunately, towards the end, they just weren't able to sustain any of that. And Simon Goodwin rightfully lost his job. And I think it's a very important, pivotal moment in the history of the Demons because they're a club that was in the washing machine for so very long. It was an embarrassment for the AFL. They then were able to get a good team together under Simon Goodwin and win a flag, which is massive for the club. But now they're on that tipping point, I feel, where they could very easily go back into the washing machine and be trash for a couple seasons. So they need to be very brave in the decisions that they make. They need to figure out who's running the club in terms of CEO and board of directors and all that. They need to get a good, strong coach who's going to actually be strong and brave in their decision making and their recruitment. And I'm of the opinion, I don't think they will take this decision, but I'm of the opinion that now is the time to do a clear out of players. Keep the good young ones that are actually showing potential, but move the likes of Petrarca on and Max Gorn on, who's not getting any younger, and start to develop a nice, good, strong group of players before Tasmania comes into the competition and just sucks up all the new talent that's coming into the game. Because if they don't make that decision now, then they will get left in the dust by the time Tasmania comes into the competition because they just
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
have enough talent
Yeah.
at their disposal.
Then
Because West Coast
it'll
is
be
going
worse
through the
for a while.
rebuild.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richmond is going through the rebuild. They've got their good core of young players.
Mm-hmm.
Tasmania is next.
Mm-hmm.
So if Melbourne want to get the jump on that, they need to do that now. If they don't, then their players like Clayton Oliver and Cozzy Pickett
Mm-hmm.
will just meander and fall by the waistline,
Yeah.
and they will become a team that is not a threat for the competition. And personally, I want that. But if you're a Demons fan, you don't want that. So it's going to be certainly very intriguing to see what happens from a Demons perspective moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. Just make Max Gawn the coach. Just play a coach.
Easier said than done, mate.
Yeah, play a coach. But can you imagine
He's
Max
great,
Gawn?
though. I love Max Gawn.
on
He's
like
going
the
to be
Lions.
rightfully so the ruckman for the All-Australian team.
I mean, Brodie Grundy could be. You know. Yeah.
He has been good, but his early start to the season also wasn't great. Whereas when Demons were terrible early on, Max Gawn was still always best on ground for them, I feel.
True. But can you imagine Max Gawn in a Lions jumper? Oh,
It would be pretty cool. It'll never happen, but it would be pretty cool.
It would be, but yeah, obviously, I don't think it would happen. But that was happening today, and then the last game of the Sunday slate was West Coast versus Adelaide, which was surprising a lot of people up until the end when finally Adelaide, who had a lead early, they pulled away towards the end. Riley Thilthorpe getting a couple goals, Rankin getting a goal, a dagger in the heart to put them up, and then they just kind of locked them away. And unfortunately, the Eagles couldn't pull off what would have been one of the greatest upsets of all time in an 18 versus 1 matchup, which honestly, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know my AFL stats well enough to know if that's ever happened before, but surely not. Like, that's especially with a team of this little amount of wins in West Coast. So
I bet you it has happened, but certainly not in recent memory.
No, definitely not in recent memory. It would have been one of the all-time games, especially just because of how bad West Coast have been. Yeah. But yeah,
now,
Adelaide,
I have a question for you, Harry.
Yeah.
Does the fact that the Eagles not able to hang on and get the job done against what is admittedly a good team, is this a reflection of the coach or is this a reflection of the players not being able to get the job done?
I just think it's the players not getting up for the game. I just think, traveling, I don't know. I just don't think that they had the juice in terms of, actually getting up for the game, and, they're sitting pretty on the top of the ladder. I don't know.
I'm talking about West Coast, though.
Oh, West Coast. Oh,
yeah.
Talking about Adelaide. No, West Coast. I don't know. I think it's just the players just not experienced enough in those tight games. I just think that's really it. So,
because I took a lot of close attention to the sort of huddle at 3/4 time, and I was just watching the players' faces very intently and to see, are they actually motivated and do they have the desire to get a win in front of their home crowd?
Yeah.
And I could see there was something there. And I feel like the coach has done his job in terms of motivating them because they did have that sort of determined, fierce look in their faces, but then they just weren't able to get the job done. So this is a tough emotional perspective to be in as a fan, I feel, because it's like, are the players good enough? Answer is no. Is the coach good enough? The jury's still out. So I don't know. This is a tough one if you're a West Coast fan because it's like you don't really know where to go in terms of a pros and cons list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know what you mean. But this kind of from an Adelaide perspective, kind of puts them a game ahead now and almost solidifies them. They just have to keep winning out and they'll win the minor premiership. And get the number 1 seed. So that leaves us with a ladder that looks a little bit like this, which was Adelaide obviously on top, and then a logjam down in 60. Cats, Collingwood, who are kind of going in the wrong direction, Freo, and then obviously the Lions there on 58 points, and then 56 for the next 3. But the Suns have a game in hand. So what kind of stands out to you about that top 8?
Mate, you got to look at the Dockers, mate. 4th spot, win. All greens, mate. That is pretty impressive. I have to admit. Adelaide, never would have predicted them to be top of the table. Geelong, who I did predict to win the minor premiership, I still think they could. But yeah, Adelaide, man, it's deserving of so much respect.
Yeah.
And I just have to hold my hands up and be like, you know what? Well done.
Yeah, wow, it's definitely a great turnaround, and the people who were calling for Matthew Nix to get fired are probably like the same sort of people that would be calling for like Michael Voss to get fired, and you can see kind of the same sort of people last year who ask should Chris Fagan be fired. So it's kind of those arguments are the ones that you can kind of, if a team's got the talent, don't get rid of the coach because you're losing that stability. And then I think obviously the flip side is like Melbourne Demons, who the team doesn't have the talent at the moment. I think that's the right call. But yeah, the team that kind of is sitting on top of the ladder was definitely not one that we thought would be at the top. But you can see there, what stands out to me is how many losses a lot of the top teams have had. 4 out of the last 5 for Collingwood. And then you have, the Lions having 2 pretty big losses. Well, not big, but, pretty devastating losses in terms of we probably should have played better against Sydney and then got smashed by the Gold Coast. Yeah, and just like how tight it is as well. Obviously, 56, only one game between 2nd and 8th spots. Wild. Yeah.
That is, yeah.
And then we'll have a look down at the bottom, which is pretty much a formality in terms of there's a large gap between Sydney and Western Bulldogs. So it's pretty much just Western Bulldogs waiting to see if one of the teams above them will slip up. And then the rest has been pretty much chalk for the whole, rest of the season. And you've obviously got the Eagles, North, 5-game losing streaks, Essendon, 5-game losing streak, Port, 4 out of the last 5 they've lost. So yeah, these teams kind of deserve to be there. And I think that's the theme for the whole year has been a very large drop. A very large gap between the best and the worst. That's
I agree with that.
8th. There's been like 9 good teams, and then there's the rest. So I think we'll have a look kind of, I suppose, to the next week, which you can see on the right-hand column there. You've got some really good matchups. If you look down back at the top spot, you've got Collingwood versus Adelaide, which is 1v3. That's a cracking game. I think that's a Saturday afternoon game. You've got the Lions there against Freo, which is another 4 versus 5 matchup. That's on a Friday night at 8:20. You got GWS and Gold Coast for the Expansion Cup 2.0, 6 versus 8. So some good top 8 matchups here. Sydney Geelong, bit of a rivalry game. And then obviously, yeah, we don't really care that much about what's happening on the bottom because there's probably some games that are going to be like toilet bowls. You know what I mean? Like North, Richmond, St Kilda, Essendon, like those kind of games. Like only really fans of those teams are going to be caring about those games. So, but some great top 8 games, perhaps finals previews. Any final thoughts for the round that was of round 22?
All I'll say is that the Bulldogs will be watching the Expansion Cup with great interest.
Yeah.
And whoever loses that game could be the team that floats out. I'm confident the Suns will win, but yeah, Bulldogs, I'm so desperate that they make it in because I just feel like it would be an injustice to see them miss out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll say another interesting round of football, a lot of formalities, a lot of almost big upsets. But in terms of, as you said at the top end of the episode, we are at the pointy end of the season, and a lot of results certainly do prick the finger and draw a lot of blood. So it'll be very, very exciting to see
what do you say,
how we
pricking
go
the finger?
Getting into finals.
What does
September.
that mean? What does pricking the finger mean? What does that?
When you get like a thing at the doctors and they like take your blood.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and then, if you're one of those idiots that bleeds a lot and then it goes everywhere and then you're dead.
You're an idiot. What if you have an immune disease or a blood disease that makes you bleed a lot?
I don't know what to tell you.
Caleb's cancelled, guys. Caleb's cancelled. He's blood phobic. Hemophobic. Hemoglobin?
I hate to say it.
Is that what I feel like is hemophobic scared of blood? Is that the phobia of blood?
I really don't know, but if you have that, that's very unfortunate for you, mate.
Phobia of blood. I mean, a lot of people get faint when they see blood. Yeah, hemophobia. Far, I just pulled that out of nowhere. There you go. Hemophobia.
There you
that's
go.
My language. That's
my dropping some wisdom at the end of the episode. I love it.
That's my Latin. Getting some Latin in there.
Mate, Latin's a dead language. I hate to tell you, mate. So
that's true.
I want to move on from that.
Well, you look at, for example, Latin. I know everyone's already probably tuned out by now, but yes, so thank you to everyone. We're going to talk about some Latin now. Philia, I found out, is actually the it's like a brotherly love name.
Okay.
And that is where we get the name Philadelphia from, which is called the city of brotherly love. So
Well,
Philea.
there you
Yeah.
go.
There you go.
That makes sense. I was gonna say because, yeah, I was in America. They have a lot of weird tie-ins to that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's always interesting seeing different words and their origins and being like, I never would have guessed that in a million years. So there you go.
There you go. Well, thank you so much to everybody for watching. We will be back next week to recap all of the amazing matchups which we have seen, and hopefully the Lions get a win and bounce back against
Oh, yeah.
Rio. So thank you so much to everybody for watching. Thank you so much, Caleb. We'll see you next week.